Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today we're going to talk about the Jeffree Star Blood Money palette. So I don't personally support Jeffree Star, I just really don't agree with his actions or some of the things that he's done in the past. So when he comes out with a new palette and the color story intrigues me, I like to shop my stash and see if I have anything similar, and that's what we're going to do in today's video. This kind of video concept idea I actually got from Kaleido, so her channel will be linked down below. But in today's video, I'm going to share some palettes that I already have in my collection that I think are somewhat similar, some that are on the market that I feel like are a little bit similar, and then I did actually create a dupe. Well, I say dupe with quotation marks because like I don't actually have the palette to swatch them next to each other. I'm just kind of creating this based off the pictures and the swatches that I've seen, but I created a dupe with singles in my collection, and I'm really excited to share everything with you guys today. So let's hop into the video. Alright, you guys, so the only palette that I really had in my collection that I felt was similar was the Whale Song palette from Honeydew Cosmetics. This is a really beautiful blue and green palette. Mine is a super huge mess because when I opened it to... more eyeshadow is falling. When I opened it to film this video, the shade Whale Song right here was actually a little bit smashed, so I kind of just pressed it back in for now and I'll like fully repress it later. But this palette has a lot of really beautiful unique tones of green. Of course it doesn't have anywhere near as many as the Blood Money palette, but if you're kind of enjoying just the overall green color story and you're like, maybe I should buy some more green eyeshadow, I urge you guys to check out this palette if you already have it in your collection because there might be some similar tones in there. And then the other two palettes I just wanted to very briefly mention because I don't think these are like exact dupes, but like if you already have them in your collection, you might have some similar tones of green that you can dip into to recreate some of the looks that I'm sure are going to come out using this palette. The first one is the Ace Beauté Oceanic palette. Again, this is kind of that green blue palette, but one thing that I feel like this palette nails that the Whale Song palette doesn't is those like murky, like brownish greeny shades. The Whale Song palette really doesn't have a whole lot of those, but the Ace Beauté palette has three-ish shades. It also has some really beautiful deep rich greens and that beautiful pop of like a neon green. And then the other one that I thought of was Just My Luck from Colourpop. This one honestly is a nice little like encapsulated version of the Blood Money palette in my opinion. I feel like it has those really pretty kind of like cool tone minty shades mixed in with those like dirty olive shades with some really nice deep greens to really deepen up a look, and I just feel like you could create some really similar looks with this palette if you already have it in your collection, or if you would just rather buy this instead of buying from Jeffree Star. But without further ado, let's hop into my singles palette, you guys. Alright, you guys, so here is my palette. I will pop a close-up of my palette and a close-up of the Jeffree Star palette on the screen right here, side by side, so you guys can kind of see how they compare. Again, I literally just made this palette based off the promo picture that I saw on Trailhead Moons page, and like I feel satisfied looking at this palette. I was never going to purchase Blood Money, but I do love a good green color story, and I thought it was kind of fun how they paired those like nice kind of almost minty greens, like deep minty greens, with kind of your classic olive green. And I had a lot of fun kind of just pulling a lot of the greens out in my collection and putting them all in one palette. So let's hop into swatches, guys. Alright, you guys, so in the first row, we're going to start out with Sydney Grace Tangy Citrus, which is one of my all-time favorite shadows from Sydney Grace and single shadows in general. It's like a pastel yellow metallic shade. And then we have Lethal Cosmetics Void, which is a beautiful, like, I feel like this is like a mint chocolate chip green. Like, it's not quite like a mint green. It's got a little bit more depth in my opinion, but still really beautiful. So there was Tangy Citrus, and here's Void. Next up, we've got Sydney Grace Calmeria and Sydney Grace Tempest, which is, Calmeria is like a soft pastel pea green, and I would describe Tempest as a like electric green. I don't think it's quite a neon green. It's like an electric lime green. It's a really fun shade to pop all over the lid. Oh, I'm so excited about swatching all these shadows on my arm. I feel like I could have almost called this video swatching all my green eyeshadow. I would like to eventually do that on my channel. Maybe I'll do that like this month or next month. I feel like that would be a fun video. Next up, we have Emme Cosmetics Palm Tree, which I feel like is kind of a grassy green. And then we have Sydney Grace Key Lime, which is a beautiful like deep forest green, I would call that shade. So here is Palm Tree, and then Key Lime. I am going to be swatching quite a few Sydney Gray shadows in this video just because I love their range of greens and I own quite a few of them. And I just want to note that they don't swatch the best with your finger, but they apply beautifully on the eyes with a brush. Alright you guys, moving on to the second row, we're getting into more of those like dirty olivey tones. And the first shade is Lethal Cosmetic Recluse. Again, one of my favorite shadows in my collection. I love throwing this in my crease for kind of a grungy look. And then we have Sydney Grace Escape, which is a beautiful, like, I would say that's like a true metallic olive green. Really, really beautiful shade. So here's Recluse, and here is Escape. Next up we have Sydney Grace Be the Sunshine and Emme Cosmetics Venice. Be the Sunshine is definitely that like classic greeny gold shade, and Be the Sunshine is such a strange shade, I feel like, but like in the best way. I feel like in the pan it looks like, yeah, it's a vibrant green, but I feel like on your finger it almost comes off more vibrant. So here is Be the Sunshine, and here's Venice. So pretty. Oh my goodness. Okay, this next shadow looks a little bit funky in this palette. It's definitely the most blue tone shadow in this palette, but there was a shade in the Blood Money palette that was a little bit more of a blue tone green, and this is the closest I had in my collection. So this is Sydney Grace Scuba Diver, one of my favorite like matte teal shades that I have in my collection, but definitely a little bit more blue than I was hoping for this palette in particular. And then we have Sydney Grace Trailhead, which is like a super deep green. Like it basically looks black. There were a lot of very deep shades in the Blood Money palette, and I honestly don't love that in a palette. I just feel like you can give me like 1 or 2 deep shades and then I'm good, but I feel like they went a little bit overboard, just in my opinion. But this is Sydney Grace Scuba Diver, and then we have Sydney Grace Trailhead. Again, their mattes don't swatch great on your arm, but they apply beautifully on the eyes. Okay, moving on to the third row, we're going to start off with Sydney Grace Trailhead. This is this isn't Trailhead, I'm sorry, this is Dirt Road. This is a beautiful kind of like soft ochre-esque shade. Whenever I pull out this shade and swatch it, it always reminds me of MAC Soft Ochre. Beautiful transition shade for like those dirty, grungy kind of looks. And then we have Sydney Grace Honeydew, which is a beautiful, like cool toned mid-tone green, I would say. Dirt Road and Honeydew. I'm gonna have to switch to my other arm. I was hoping I would get all of these shadows on one arm, but no dice. I do have a nicer swatch pic that I took for Instagram that I will insert at the end so you guys can kind of see all the swatches all together on one arm, but we'll save that till the end. Okay guys, next up we have Sydney Grace Hot Stuff and Sydney Grace Rustic. Hot Stuff is a beautiful, super metallic, like bronzy shade, and then Rustic is more of like a satin, grungy, like almost greenish taupey shade. Makes a really beautiful smoky eye. These swatches are just gonna be bad because I'm doing them with my left hand, be warned. And then finally the last 2 shadows in this palette are Sydney Grace To Earth, which is such a beautiful deep dark emerald green, such a beautiful shadow. I cannot wait to crank out a holiday look with that one. And then Colourpop Prism, which is just a matte black. It's from their Chasing Rainbows palette, which is why it's so tiny. Again, this one swatches horribly, but I did build up the swatch a little bit in my swatch picture so you guys can get a little bit of a better feel for how the black will play into this palette. But here are all the swatches, you guys. I know this is like terrible and really not helpful, so I'm just gonna insert that swatch picture right now so you guys can really get a feel for what my dupe palette looks like. I don't believe there are swatches out at the time that I'm filming this video, but if there are swatches by the time this video goes up, I will insert a side-by-side right here for my dupe palette and the Jeffree Star Blood Money palette. But I think that's gonna wrap up this video, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this kind of video, I do have plenty more on my channel. I will link them all below. I think my most recent one is duping the Baby Yoda palette. I died over that palette because I'm like a little bit obsessed with Baby Yoda. He is so precious and tiny and I just love him. So when that palette came out, I knew that I had to try to dupe the vibes. Honestly, like deep down, even after doing that video, I know that it's the packaging that's drawing me in, but I had to try it anyway. So if you guys are infatuated with Baby Yoda or you love green eyeshadow, definitely check that video out. Leave me a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the Blood Money palette. Are you excited about it? Are you gonna purchase it? Are you shopping your stash for dupes like I am? I'd love to chat about it with you down below, but that's gonna wrap it up for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!